Welcome to the meeting of the Highways Committee, taking place on Tuesday, 20th of February 2024. I'm Councillor Richard Ormer, I'm Chair of this committee. So welcome everybody, and also welcome to those watching on Durham County Council's YouTube channel, because we're being broadcast live today as well. Before we commence with the formal business, just a couple of housekeeping things, as usual. Please can I ask everybody to switch off or put on silent mode mobile phones or similar devices. And can I ask all those attending the meeting to be COVID considerate, please. Please speak only when called to speak, and when you're not speaking, if you could make sure your microphones are switched off, please. When invited to speak, please switch on the microphone nearest to you, and if you would like to introduce yourself, that would be helpful as well. So we have a number of officers with us this morning, and I'm going to go around and ask them to introduce themselves. So if we go this way. There you go.
Yeah, my name's Gary Hutchinson. I'm Vice Chairman of the committee today.
Morning, I'm Dave Lewin. I'm the Strategic Traffic Manager for the County Council.
Martin Tyndall, Committee Services Officer.
Neil Carter, I'm the Solicitor to the Committee.
Kieran Morley, I'm Traffic Management Section Manager.
Peter Broxton, I'm the Parking Manager.
Lee Mowbray, Team Leader, Strategic Traffic.
Ewan Brown, Traffic Engineer for Strategic Traffic.
Deborah Arnold, Traffic Engineer for Strategic Traffic.
And Mark Jackson, Head of Transport and Contract Services for Durham Council.
Great, thank you very much. So before we move on to the agenda itself, I'm just going to invite Neil Carter, the legal officer, to take us through the remit of this committee and what the committee is being asked to do today. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, what I'm going to do is just read from the Constitution, and then I'll just summarise. So the Constitution says that your role is to provide guidance to the Corporate Director in relation to the exercise of delegated functions under the Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984, where objections have been made and not withdrawn. So essentially then, where proposed traffic regulation orders under the 1984 Act have received objections, they come to this committee. Members are therefore being consulted and asked to provide your views to guide the final decision maker. So you're not making the final decision, you're being consulted by that decision taker, which is a delegated function for an officer, and asked to provide your guidance or views on this.
Thank you for that clarification, Neil. So moving on to the agenda then, the first item today is apologies for absence. Do we have any of those?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Cochrane and Sterling.
Okay, we agree to accept those. And then item number 2, have we any substitute members?
Chair, we have no substitute members today.
Thank you. Item number 3 is the minutes of the meeting held on the, whatever date, 8th of December 2023. Do we agree I sign those as a correct record?
Agreed.
Excellent. I'll just do that now. And item number 4 is declarations of interest. Councillor Mervyn.
Yeah, item number 5, Chair. It's in my ward.
Okay, so you're declaring an interest as local member,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to have to do the same for the same reason, I think, as well. But I will. I don't think it's prejudicial, and I will remain in the meeting. Any other declarations of interest? No. Okay, thank you. So item 5 is Durham City parking and waiting restrictions and on-street parking reports. So we go over to Dave for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Just a Just to clarify straight away, I'm doing one presentation for Durham City, but members will be aware that the pack has 5 reports in it. So we've got, for administrative purposes, we have Durham split into 4 quarters, which is northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, which contains all the traffic regulations orders within that quadrant. And then there's also the permits order and report, the tariff report. So this presentation essentially is detailing what we want to do in Durham City as a whole, but it impacts on 5 different orders. So I believe there'll be 5 votes at the end on 5 orders, but there's only one presentation because it applies across Durham City as a whole. So as legal have said, we're proposing to make changes to the parking place traffic regulation orders in Durham City. They've been advertised in alignment with the Road Traffic Regulation Act and Statutory Instrument 2489. Objections to the order have been received, and committee are now asked to consider the proposals and make a recommendation to the director. The parking charges were first introduced in Durham City so long ago now, 21 years ago. So, and at the time, it was to control parking in the city centre and encourage long-stay parking to go out to the park and ride sites. And at the time, 21 years ago, the congestion and demand for parking was Monday to Saturday. Now, over the 23 years, it's become apparent, 21 years has become apparent, and things have changed, the world's changed, the trading environment has changed, and we now see that we've got as much of a problem on a Sunday in Durham City as we had previously Monday to Friday. So what we want to do is we want to extend all the existing parking charges Monday to Saturday to include a Sunday. There is, in I think it's a second report, there's a minor typo in that it says they proposed and the existing is Monday to Saturday, but actually the proposed should be Monday to Sunday. Small typo that's just been pointed out to me, so I just need to make members aware of that. As I said, there's 5 reports. We're asking committee to consider all 5 reports under this presentation. I don't know if you've had time to read that. I'm not going to read the slides word for word. I think that's probably the worst thing you have to sit through. So what we're proposing to do is introduce charges and restrictions on a Sunday, and this is all based. So this is pay and display parking, loading, disabled parking, permit parking, taxi parking, and they will operate on a Sunday between 8 AM and 6 PM. Now, the income from these parking charges will allow us to implement a park and ride service on a Sunday, and it's intended to run a park and ride service 7 AM till 7 PM on the Belmont to Sniperley route initially. And if demand requires it, we will then look at introducing a Howland service as well. The report also looks to increase parking charges for on-street parking and off-street parking by 10p per half hour. So in the cheapest place we can park in Durham at present, it is 20 pence for half an hour. So that will become 30 pence for half an hour. And everything else, I think the most expensive we've got in Durham is now 80 pence for half an hour. So that'll become 90 pence for half an hour. And the reason we've got different tariffs in different areas is certain streets are more popular than others. So on the fringes, the outskirts, it's cheaper than, for argument's sake, Old Elbert, where it's a really popular place and we want a high turnover. But we also have residents who struggle to find a space because it's filled up with people coming into the city. What we're experiencing, what we get through from residents and from visitors to the city is on a Sunday, because there's no charges, you cannot find a space. And yet, when you go through the city, you see people queuing up to get into the private multi-storey car park providers who do charge on a Sunday. So this measure of introducing charges on a Sunday and controls on a Sunday will bring us in line with the private operators, but allow us to operate a park and ride service, which as a historic city centre, as a visitor attraction, as a World Heritage Site, I think it's quite reasonable to expect visitors to expect that we have facilities to get them into the city on Sundays and bank holidays, which currently we don't, and that attracts a lot of criticism. We hosted a questionnaire online. So normally we'd go out on post notices on street and we would contact directly affected frontages. On this occasion, because it's such a change that impacts a wide area, that's been impossible to do. So the way we did it, we did a questionnaire which was hosted online between the 23rd of October 23 and the 13th of November 23. And that invited comments and objections from residents, visitors, and basically anybody who would be impacted by that. The response to that questionnaire was that we got 545 objections. 302 objections were in response to Sunday parking and charging regime, and 243 objections were in response to the proposed tariff increase. 20 objections were later received in response to the formal advert. So after we've done the questionnaire online, we then advertised formally in the press, and we got 21 objections which were later received as a result of that formal advert. 50 responses were in favour of the proposals were received via the questionnaire. So the slide that you see there is a summary of the objections broken down by category as best we could. And officers have considered the objections and the reasons for the objections and believe the positives of introducing park and ride on a Sunday, introducing parking charges and extending the parking operation on a Sunday to allow us to introduce park and ride. The positives of that far outweigh any of the negatives that will impact the city. And therefore, officers recommend that the committee resolve to set aside the objections and endorse the proposals in principle, which, as you've been told, will guide the corporate director in exercise of delegated decision making. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. So we now move on to representations, starting with local members. Are there any local members affected by this who are wanting to speak? Councillor Freeman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief. Durham City, perhaps unlike any other town or village in County Durham, has on-street parking in residential areas. In many streets, this does lead to drivers parking all day, and this has issues, therefore, for the residents that actually live in those streets. Many of them find a great deal of difficulty in parking because, as I say, drivers have already parked for the whole day, so they can't often get their car parked. If they do leave a parking space, they often come back a few hours later to find there isn't any remaining spaces in their street, and that is also an issue for any visitors to those residents. So I do support the proposals to increase the charges. That will hopefully make some of the on-day parkers who are working in the city reconsider where they park. They may wish to use one of the council car parks or one of the private sector car parks, or preferably use the park and ride facility. The park and ride facility is there to stop drivers driving into the city. We do have serious air quality problems within Durham City, and the fewer amount of cars that actually have to drive into the city and then drive around looking for a parking space, the better. So ultimately, yes, I support these proposals. I believe that these proposals are largely supported by the residents that actually live in the city and are impacted by the relatively cheap parking charges that exist in their streets. So, I think this is a win-win for the council in that we can generate a little bit more income. We can provide a park and ride facility on a Sunday. It will hopefully reduce the amount of all-day parkers parking in residential streets and get them to park somewhere else, and make life a little bit easier for the residents that I represent. So I hope that members will support these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And there are no other local members wishing to speak on this one. We move on then to objectors. I've not been informed of any objectors wishing to speak on this one. With that in mind, can I ask Dave and Neil, the officers, if they have any comments or observations so far? Anything from legal? Nothing from Dave? Okay, so with that, we move into the debate then. Any members of the committee wishing to speak? Councillor Wood, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I did have a few questions for the officers based on the report and the presentation first, if that's okay. The first one's been touched on a little bit, which was what were the responses from local members, because obviously it referenced in each stage that local members were consulted, but we've only heard like representation from one local member there, where I think he said he was supportive of the tariff changes, but sort of seemed to stay away from the issue about Sunday. So I'd be interested to hear what local members think. It's not sort of drawn out in the report. The other things I wanted to ask in terms of the report itself was there's references to savings and revenue it will generate. Could we just get some advice on to what extent is this a relevant consideration for the decision that the committee is looking at today? Because I know sometimes when we look at stuff from a highways point of view, the cost wouldn't really be something that we can actually look at. So some clarification on that would be helpful. If it is a relevant consideration for what we're looking at, it doesn't seem to outline what those costs are in the report. So I think that just seems a little bit, I think some clarification there would certainly be helpful. The other thing is the report states, obviously, that a large part of the reasoning for it is to reduce carbon emissions. But it also states that they'll have to change all of the parking signs through Durham City if the changes are agreed today. So if we're looking at it from the point of view of, okay, how are we going to reduce carbon emissions? Have we made any assessment of what the environmental cost is of replacing all of the signage, and how many car journeys would you effectively have to prevent in order to offset the cost of replacing all of the signage? The other thing that I wanted to ask was the report states that the decision to pursue this was made in Cabinet in September. I wasn't at that meeting, but I have had a look at the paperwork, and I'm interested to know what part of the what agenda item it was discussed under, basically, because I've had a read through. I know there are a couple of cabinet members in, so I don't know if they might be able to clarify with this point. But basically what I'm asking is what part of the meeting was that discussed in? Because when you look through the paperwork published, including the minutes, there doesn't seem to be any reference to parking restrictions specifically. The minutes do reference carbon emissions, and it says that emissions are reducing significantly from 1990 levels. And on page, I think it was 146, it notes that passenger numbers on the park and ride is still below pre-COVID levels. That reference does comment on free after 2 parking being a factor, but it doesn't seem to reference specific changes to parking restrictions in Durham City. Just to be on the safe side, I did use the old Control F strategy, and there are 16 references to parking in the minutes, but none of them seem to be talking about this. So it was just some clarity about where it's come from and what the reasoning behind it is. Obviously, I appreciate there was quite a lot there, but
thank you for that. Yeah, the Cabinet were presented with a report that covered a number. We were asked a number of months ago, if not years ago, to review the parking operation in County Durham. And Cabinet were presented with a report that looked at various interventions we could make to better control or manage our parking asset, to provide a better service for the public, for visitors. And within that, the changes to parking tariffs in our on-street and off-street parking spaces was included, and the park and ride was included in that. So it wasn't a specific item for each element. It was a parking county-wide parking assessment, if you like, that was reported.
just on that point, then, was it considered? I suppose what I'm really asking is, was it considered as part of the MTFP update? Is really what I'm asking.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
With regard to the carbon footprint, I've tried to make a note of everything you asked. But the carbon footprint and changing the signage, it's negligible, because the changing of signage is essentially putting a sticker over it that says Sunday. So it's not ripping all the signs out, written posts out and putting a new in. It's literally putting a sticker on the existing signage. I'm sorry, what else was it?
Sorry, there was the issue about whether savings and savings or any potential revenue generation is a relevant consideration for the committee. Just to say, is that something we should be looking at, really? I don't know if that's you, Dave, or whether it's Neil, but I think some clarification on that would be helpful. And then the other bit was just about whether or not there were any other representations from local members, because I know you said you'd consulted from them, but we've only heard from one, but it seems to cover several electoral divisions. Thanks.
Yeah, with the local members were all consulted, and we didn't, and I'll check with officers to get a nod, but we didn't get any objections, is how I can phrase it. So they may not have contacted us to say they supported, but they didn't contact us to say they objected it, which was quite often the case. That no news is good news, if you like, in that respect. If there's a problem and the members are against a proposal, they will make that known to us. So with regard to these proposals, there were no objections from local members. With the finance, without increasing the charges and introducing Sunday charges, we cannot run the park and ride service. Any surplus, if any surplus is generated, that is ring-fenced to be spent on traffic management throughout the county. That can include subsidised bus services as well as traffic management schemes. But essentially, it's neutral. Anything that comes in will be used to provide this park and ride service. So I don't know whether that's a material consideration or not. If we want to put the park and ride on a Sunday, we have to generate the income to finance that.
Thank you. As Councillor Wood rightly said, there are some Cabinet members here today, and I think they may wish to come in to clarify.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify for the committee that this is not a Cabinet decision. It is a delegated decision. I don't know whether Neil wants to perhaps explain how that works, but it isn't for Cabinet to decide. So the work that's gone on in preparing these proposals sort of was generated by the discussions at Cabinet around parking, but it isn't for Cabinet to decide this at all.
Yeah, Chair, the member's correct. You know, as I mentioned at the outset of this meeting, really, it's ultimately a delegated decision, but members are being asked to provide guidance or views in principle to guide the exercise of that delegated decision making. So it's not a Cabinet decision, it is a delegated matter.
Thanks. So, but the report does say that Cabinet approved a report recommending it. So it's a recommendation from Cabinet that we're then been asked to make a further recommendation on. But I do wonder if, Neil, if you just expand on the point of to what extent is any savings or revenue generated something we can make a decision on from a highways point of view, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My understanding of the government guidance on this is that the parking service is required to be self-financing. So ultimately, what we're saying to members today is that the charges that are proposed to be introduced will go somewhere to achieving that goal. So in that respect, it's material.
I can't allow speeches from members of the public at this point, but did you have questions? Anything for clarification?
I had a question, yes. With the 10p across the board parking increase, is that not disproportionate if it's a 33%, or my maths isn't right, increase on the lower ones if you're taking it up by 10p? So proportionately, some of the increases could be considerably higher, which would force people into other parking bays. Is that not correct? So my understanding is that, I think you said that it was going up one of the fees was 20 pence and it was going up to 30 pence. So is that not a third increase? Whereas one of them was 80 pence going up 10p to 90 pence. Is the increase not disproportionate?
Whether it's disproportionate or not, I mean that is subjective, isn't it? But nevertheless, that is the recommendation before us. I will go over to Dave.
Yeah, it's simply the practicalities of being able to pay the charge. If we turned around and said, right, we're going to increase everything by inflation, so let's say 20%, then we couldn't have a tariff that went from 20 pence to 27.5 pence or wherever. So it's simply a 10 pence on every tariff point is what we've chosen to do for the practicalities of how how payment works. So yes, 10 pence on a lower tariff point is a higher percentage than on a higher tariff point. But there is complexities in how you can collect and what tariff you can charge with these sort of things.
Yeah.
How much is Park and Ride, and how much control do you have over the cost of that? And are there any concessions?
Park and Ride is currently £2 all day, but if you have a POP card, it's called, a POP travel card, which you preload, it's £1.70 a day.
Thank you. Councillor Howie, please.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Joanne Howie from the Woodhouse Close ward. Just to check, so are we obviously Durham has now become a massive focal point, as it always has been for Durham. It's the main place people come to this area is for the city. Are we going to advertise the Park and Ride more than we do now? I know we've got the big signs coming into the city, but adverts, you know, on social media, on our website, etc., things like that, just to make people more aware of the Park and Ride, because I think it's fantastic when we've got events on, it's something to use, and the parking is a good price for all day as well, and good drop-off points. Just to make people more aware of that. And was it right that you said that we're going to use any extra that comes in to look after and fix the car parks in the area and look after, because obviously with bigger cars now, more use on roads than ever before, we obviously seen a lot more potholes come in, and we're trying to keep those right and filled. Are we going to use that towards all of that type of stuff and any extra we have coming in? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I believe we do advertise the Park and Ride, but it's one of those things when you start looking for it, you'll see it's out there, but we'll always look to strengthen those adverts. I mean, we've got buses running around that are liveried buses, so anybody coming in the city will see those buses. And if you sat in a queue on the A690 coming to Durham and there's a bus flies past you and you think, why, I should have gone on that bus, and that's kind of a constant advert. So yeah, we will be looking at all options to advertise and promote the Park and Ride. And introducing or increasing car parking charges in the city will also promote Park and Ride, because it suddenly becomes cheaper to use Park and Ride than it is to park all day in the city, which is what we should be doing to positively discourage people coming through the air quality management area in the city, and let the residents have availability of spaces. The government legislation says that any income from parking or Park and Ride, any kind of surplus income, first of all, it's got to go to providing the service. Any surplus income is ring-fenced for traffic schemes, so that could be maintenance schemes, it could be junction improvements, it could be, as I said, subsidising rural buses. It's all ring-fenced for those purposes. It cannot be siphoned off for any other purpose. It has to be spent on transport. Okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Oliver, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, thanks for that. And I mean, speaking as a representative of Lanchester, within about 6 miles of Durham city centre, this is very relevant, and there's lots of my residents that are sort of weighing up the cost benefits of parking fees and Park and Ride. So I'm broadly positive about what I've heard on the proposals so far. I mean, one other element I just wanted to bring to the discussion is particular focus on local air pollution, and you mentioned in passing the air quality management area. Just like to be clear about the area of the city centre that covers, and the challenge in terms of things like sulfur dioxide emissions, because speaking as a mild asthmatic myself, I know that's something that's a concern as well. There's a lot of emphasis on the report about the climate emergency at the county and international level, but in terms of the local pollution and impact on local residents, be interested to hear about that, and so I think that's also an important consideration.
Okay, Councillor Robson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Ken Robson, Aycliffe West. My interest is in as a tourist, to be honest. I don't live in a city. I don't live anywhere near the city, to be honest. It takes me 3/4 of an hour to get here in the morning. I do use Howlands, but I am quite concerned that Howlands is reaching its capacity. Can you tell me how much more capacity it can take if we are moving people to the outside?
Currently, I think Howlands is about 50 to 60% capacity, so there's still 40% there. I mean, park and ride figures haven't rebounded as quickly as we'd like after COVID, but we did extend Howlands as part and parcel of the student development up there, but we've maxed out the space we've got at Howlands now, so that is what we've got unless we put a deck on. But that's we're talking expense. But as it currently stands, Howlands has still got capacity in, but Belmont has a huge amount of capacity to soak up any additional usage, and we are just about to start, if we haven't already started, on Snipely extension. So we will be providing more park and ride spaces. Unfortunately, that one that you use, Howlands, which is the one I use as well, is that we've got no more land there unless we can do something with the university, and they no longer need their car parking facility. But we're always in dialogue with others to see what can and can't be done. But at the moment, we're quite relaxed about the available capacity at Howlands.
Thank you. Councillor Madison.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Liz Madison, Spennymoor Division. First of all, I would just like to say I have no declaration of interest in this particular item. I wasn't present when that was requested. In the document that's been presented, Appendix 3, and responses from consultees, visitor numbers will decline, 131. Negative effects on business, 82. I have had experience of this in that I used to travel to Darlington every week to do shopping. I have something to eat there and enjoy walking around in the shopping centre. Parking charges were imposed there, and visitor numbers declined significantly. I do think the local economy is important, that shopkeepers should be welcoming visitors. I do think that we should have free parking for visitors coming into the centre. I also think that the park and ride facility is a good option, you know, where visitors can't get into the centre itself. And you should be encouraging people to use the park and ride, I agree. But equally so, I do think that it's important to continue the stimulus of getting people into the town centre, using the facilities in that. And on that basis, I couldn't support this request to increase on charges. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there a question from the public? Yes, please.
Can you top up your POP card at the park and ride facilities? Because I know I've tried to do it like online, and it can take several days to come through. So it's not really an easy, simple option necessarily, unless you have the machines at the park and ride services.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the officers for advice on that. I know you can do it online, and there was a shop in Clearpath in Durham that you could do it, but are our machines sophisticated enough at the moment? No, I'm being told we can't do it at the Park and Ride, unfortunately. It's something we can look into, though. But I wasn't aware that there was a delay in, if you went online, I was under the impression it was, as most things are online now, instant. So we can look into what the problem is there.
Yeah, unfortunately not. And I think you had to go to a machine after doing it online to then have it register if you weren't going to wait sort of the 2 days.
Right, we'll take that away and we'll look into that. It may be that we just need to add some functionality to our machine that will then talk to the back office once you've done it online, and it goes bang there, you're credited with the credit. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Yes.
Councillor Marion Wilson, Dean S Ward. I agree completely with what Councillor Madison said. I think bringing in charges, especially on a Sunday, is going to deter visitors. And it's going to deter local visitors as well. I mean, where I live, I wouldn't go to a park and ride because it would be quicker for me to go into Durham. But if I've got my family with me, you know, I want to be able to go in, park up, have a look around Durham, maybe go for food and what have you. Families aren't going to do that if there's going to be parking charges on. And obviously, again, as Councillor Madison said, it's the visitor economy as well. You know, tourists coming in. That's one of the attractions, free parking on a Sunday. And I just think it's a bit off to lump the Sunday parking in with extra charges during the week. I personally think it should have been 2 issues.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Wood again, do you want to come back in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Obviously, initially, I was asking specific questions about the report. I do have some points that I'd like to make, though, particularly after listening to some of the other questions and some of the debate. I think, like, park and ride is fundamentally a good idea, but there is a bit of an issue with how it translates versus normal, like, parking charges, because when you're looking at parking charges on the street or in a council car park, the charge is based on the vehicle. It's not based on the amount of people. So £2 for a person sounds quite reasonable for park and ride. As soon as there's 2, 3 or 4 of you in the car, it's much more expensive than parking on the street anyway. And also it is going to be less convenient having to get on a bus to get into Durham and get on a bus to get out of Durham. So I think longer term that is something we're going to have to look at. I mean, I know at risk of sounding like I'm harping on a bit, I'm still very concerned about the Respond local members of the electoral division that we've had. I know you're in a difficult position, Chair, chairing the committee, but realistically we have 8 county councillors representing divisions affected. We've heard from 1 who said that they were in favour of some of it. I still think it was a bit ambiguous as to the rest of it, but we haven't heard from the other 7. So as a council, we've asked the public what they think. We've had the consultation responses there. They do also have councillors, and most of them have decided not to respond. What's the point in us carrying out a consultation if we're going to ignore it anyway? And to me, the response is, it's pretty clear. There's only 6% of respondents are in favour. I know we heard earlier about some local residents will support it, but when you look at the thing, it was a stupidly low number of respondents were actually in favour, and that's just a very polite way of saying that 94% of people were against it who responded. It's not easy to get people to respond to consultations, and we don't usually see numbers anywhere near that clear. I do also have an issue with the way that we're sort of badging this. There's a funny echo I can hear. We're badging this as being more about capacity concerns and about reducing carbon emissions. If people could humour me for a second, if you travelled here today and you didn't get here by a petrol or diesel car, would you mind just raising your hand, please? So if we want to look at carbon emissions, that's a much bigger issue. And as I think one of the residents pointed out, you're increasing the charges significantly more where they're cheapest, which is disproportionate, and someone who has to be there or who has, you know, time restrictions can't really avoid paying the extra charges. I think the thing on the Sunday is a massive issue, And really, I think the consultation backs up that most people believe this will hurt local businesses in Durham, and I don't see how we can get around that. I understand the point about the turnover of spaces, but I don't think we've won that argument, and I think it's very, very difficult to quantify because you don't know exactly, you know, who's coming in and who's paying the parking charges or where they're actually visiting. We don't have the data to be able to do that. I think really this is an MTFP saving, and I don't think we should be pretending it's anything else. I don't want to dwell too much on the budget situation because obviously we've got that to look forward to next week. But the revenue it will raise it's not going to go anywhere near the black hole in the council's budget of the MTFP period. If the council wanted to put on Park and Ride on a Sunday, and if that was a priority for this council, the council could do it anyway. As members will recall as well, at the last full council, we voted unanimously to reconsider free after 2 p.m. parking. I know that's not what we're talking about today, but a lot of the arguments are very, very similar, and they apply to other towns across the county. I noticed that Cabinet have met since then, but they don't seem to have remembered to discuss it yet, so that's something we'll take up outside of the meeting. But if Cabinet are already having to reconsider part of this policy, I think it's strange that we've been asked to make a recommendation on it today. We've seen almost no support for this from local members. We've seen no support from it from the public at all. And on the basis of that and what we've heard this morning, I'm not willing to support the recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Howie.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry to come back in. Just listening to a few things that have been said, I know I've been myself with my children into Durham, and the amount of times we've had to queue to get into the private car parks to then pay quite a lot of money to stay all day has been quite a bit. So that's why we've gone to the Park and Ride, because it is an easier system, and I'm all for against trying to get money to get rural bus services going, because where I live, we really struggle for buses. So if that's going to help towards getting people out of rural villages into towns, I think that's also a very plus point at the moment, because the amount of complaints we're getting over that. And I believe going back many years ago when it was free parking on Sundays, not many shops, restaurants, etc. would open on a Sunday. It's now more of a norm for everyone to go out on a Sunday compared to when they used to go out on, say, a Saturday, whatever, when we used to charge more through the business weeks. Everywhere else treats Sunday as a normal day now. So why shouldn't we, with our car parkings, charge it as a normal day to bring those facilities that we need back into the county back in place? I do believe we need every help we can get to get buses into rural areas, and if this is going to help, I think it's a positive.
Yep, thank you very much, Joanne. And we've got Councillor Wilson again, and I think Councillor Freeman wants to come in as local member again. I will allow that as long as everybody's brief. Councillor Wilson, thank you.
Can we just clarify, Councillor Howie suggested that money from the Park and Ride could go on rural transport? Can we clarify that, please? I thought money from the Park and Ride had to be spent on parking services, you know, making sure that car parks and what have you was safe, not on transport.
Just to clarify, the first call on any income is to provide the service, and then any surplus is ring-fenced for transport measures.
Councillor Freeman and then Councillor Oliver.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. It was just to respond to Councillor Wood. Councillor Wood's obviously very concerned about local members. I would just highlight that about 80 to 85% of these parking charges for on-street are actually in my Ilford and Gilesgate ward. And as a local member, with the vast majority of these parking charge increases in my ward, I do support them. Now, I appreciate that that doesn't necessarily, we don't know what the other members covering Neville's Cross or further afield think, but, you know, as I've just explained, the vast majority of these charges are in my ward rather than across the city in general.
Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you. And I'd like to echo many of the comments Joe Howie, Councillor Howie has made, and that Sundays are different to the past. And I was in the city centre as it happened on Saturday and Sunday, and it was very, very busy. And I'm just not convinced by the argument that parking charge is the decisive factor. It's the gem of the county. It's a commercial hub. There's many draws, and thankfully we have moved beyond COVID in many ways, and that's shown by the busyness in the city centres. So I'm very comfortable with the recommendations. I'd also echo David Freeman, Councillor Freeman's comments about being the local member. He is the local member. He's turned up, and I thank him for that. And I don't think we can just dismiss a local member because then we happen to disagree with them. And anecdotally, I know of many people in Durham that have spoken about this issue of turnover and increasing that with fees would seem intuitive. So yeah, I've got no problems going with the officer's proposals. If I could add just one question, though, I'd just like to be a bit clearer about the issue of local pollution and how that's measured by the council and what data we have on that, because that's another concern which is obviously very relevant to the issue of parking.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you proposing the recommendation?
Yes, happy to propose it.
With regard to the air quality measuring, it's a separate area of the council that does that, but I am involved in the group. The main areas of concern are from Giles-Gate roundabout through to Crossgate, and it's the main corridor through the city. 40% of the vehicles that come through that corridor aren't actually going to Durham City. They continue the journey further afield onto the motorway, onto the A690 up to Sunderland. But what we can do where we've got our park and rides is intercept the ones that are coming into the city, which will take individual vehicles off that corridor and put them on to put multiple people on one vehicle. So that should have an impact on the air quality within that area. The other area is from Lees's Bowl up to Holgarth Street, and again that's a park and ride route, and we are looking and have a view to electrifying the park and ride fleet in the next round of tenders, if the buses are available to us. So the areas that we run in the park and ride are the areas of concern, and we're trying to get people off the car park, stop queuing for the Prince Bishop's car park, which is engines idling, taking over, queuing to get in a car park on a Sunday. If we can get them on the park and ride, that'll help quite substantially.
Thank you. Councillor Mavin.
Yeah, Councillor Mavin, Belmont Division. I'd just like to second Councillor Oliver's proposal, and we recommend the officer's decision on this.
Thank you, Eric. Any other members wanting to speak? Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wasn't really going to speak that much after listening to everything, but I came into Durham, I think it was a fortnight ago on a Sunday, and I come from Warburn, and we don't have the park and ride over there. However, it cost me just under £12 for the 6 hours that I was in, just to come through there. And I think anything that's helping the park and rides, I think it's better than I third the proposal that we should go with it, to be honest with you. But no, I mean, speaking to some people in Coxo, local businesses there as well, they actually put time limits on there, and their businesses in Coxo, I know it's different to Durham, but they actually saw an improvement on that because people weren't staying there all day. I've tried to park in Durham myself. I know, like anybody, you try to save your money where you can, and you try to park down some of the streets, but to be honest with you, you just you can't get parked anywhere. And to say for the park and ride for £2, or even for your 80 pences, your 90 pences, I think it's a better deal, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion on that one.
Thank you, Gary. Right, with no other members wishing to speak, we then move to the vote. It's been moved and seconded that we endorse the proposal. I'm going to hand over to Neil Carter now to take us through the voting, because it is a little more complicated than normal because of the unusual number of separate amendment orders.
Thank you, Chair. So members, as you know, we've got 5 different reports for Durham City, 4 which deal with, if I can call them, non-chargeable proposals, so introducing further restrictions on a Sunday that are not chargeable as such. And then we've got a 5th report, the permits and tariffs order, which deals with the actual price increases and the extension of charging to a Sunday. We will need to go through each one and have a mover and seconder for each of them, and then go to the vote. So if we deal with item 5A first, which is the Durham City North East order, can I take it that Councillor Oliver is moving that, and it's seconded by Councillor Maven in accordance with officer recommendation? Okay, so I think we can go to the vote on that one, Chair.
Okay, so can I see all those in favour of that, please?
6.
Those against?
7.
Sorry, yes, yeah, Gary as well. And those against, please?
7 and 4.
Any abstentions? No. Okay, so item B.
Yeah, Chair, item 5B, which is the Northwest order. I'm taking it that it's moved and seconded in the same way.
Taking that as read, are we? Okay, so can I see all those in favour, please? And those against? Okay, that's carried.
Then Chair, item 5C, which is the South East order.
And those against? Again, that is carried.
Thank you, Chair. The next order is the Southwest order. Again, we're taking it as read that it's been moved and seconded.
Okay, can I see those in favour, please? And those against, please. Thank you. Again, that's carried.
And then finally, Chair, for Durham City, it's item 5E, which is the permits and tariffs order. And again, I'll take it as read that it's been moved and seconded by Councillors Oliver and Maven.
Thank you. Can I see all those in favour, please? And those against, please. Thank you, members. So that concludes item 5. Thank you for all your contributions there. We therefore move on to item 6, which is the CM off-street parking places, parking and waiting restrictions. And it's over to Dave, I think, to take us through this.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, it's not as straightforward as it could be, because we've actually got 2 orders in CM. One's the off-street parking places traffic regulation order, one's the on-street traffic regulation amendment order. Essentially, it's the same presentation with the same for both orders, so I'll just run through it once, and I'll follow the first. I'll do the off-street first, and then a little bit of the on-street, just to clarify what we're talking about. But both these orders have been advertised in accordance with the Road Traffic Regulation Act 1984 and Statutory Instrument 2489. Objections have been received to the proposals, and we're now asking members to decide in principle how we will and guide the corporate director in exercise of the delegated decision. I better put the right thing up. Okay, so in CM, what we're looking at, what we're proposing to do is introduce pay and display parking in 6 car parks, and these are the 6 car parks that are immediately adjacent to the coastline, so the heritage coast of northeast Durham. We're proposing to introduce a charge of up to 1 hour is £1 and over 1 hour is £3. So essentially you can stay there all day for £3. The 6 car parks in question are Seaham Hall Beach, which has got approximately 168 spaces. I mean, the numbers are approximate because some of the car parks aren't marked out or aren't marked out as we would want them to be marked out to maximise the usage. So this is currently just a quick scan of the car park and say this is how many spaces we can see there. So 168 at Seaham Hall Beach. That's the northernmost car park. It's the one with the cafe in it, and it's opposite Seaham Hall access. Second location is Vane Tempest, so this is after Seaham Hall Bends. We're heading south from some north to south here. Vane Tempest has got 91 spaces, as you can see from that aerial photograph, fairly well used. The next area is Terrace Green. You might know this as where Tommy's statue is, or more likely where Lickety Split is, the ice cream shop, which is quite well known. 72 spaces around Terrace Green. Then we've got Seaham Marina, which, if you haven't been, is a fantastic facility that you drop down onto the coast, and there's a number of car parking areas around there, and it's 137 spaces in that area. The next one is Dock. We call it Dock Top. It might be known locally as other names. And it is an informal bit of land that became a car park over the years just through people parking there. Now, what we've actually done as a county council, we've purchased the land because it wasn't our land. We've purchased it. We have planning consent. We've ordered utility diversions, and we're progressing with the detailed design, and we're going to make it into a proper marked out car park with approximately 141 spaces, which will include disabled spaces and EV charging points. So you can see the preliminary design on the right, and the actual photograph on the left is what it actually looks like currently, which is just a bit of wasteland, really. And the final location is Noses Point, which is at the southern end of Seaham, which is the buildings you can see on the left are Spectrum Business Park or Business Zone, and there's 75 spaces at Noses Point. Now, those six car parks that we're proposing to introduce pay and display parking in. Now, the car parks shown with a red line boundary on that slide there will remain free, and this equates to about 793 spaces. So when we say we want to introduce pay and display parking in Seaham, it is just the car parks, the attractive car parks that are right next to the Heritage Coast, but there will still be an abundance of free car parking within Seaham. And one of the side benefits of keeping these free car parks is it will encourage people into the commercial area, and so they'll park them for free but walk them past the shops, which is potential trade for those shops if they want to park there and walk to get to the coast. Now, this is a background. I'll let you read that, but I just want to clarify that there is no such thing as free car park provision. Somebody somewhere is picking up the cost of car parks. Now, what you may know, may not know, is the costs associated with a car park are non-domestic rates, electricity charges, water charges, and maintenance costs, winter maintenance costs. So somebody, if you've got a car park and it drains when it rains, it drains. Okay, the drains go into the water system, that's your water rates. If you've got lights in a car park, there's a cost associated with providing those lights. You've got to pay non-domestic rates. Now, that's estimated, and it varies on the size of the car park, but it's estimated between £20,000 and £30,000 per car park that it costs to provide that facility. And then if you've got to maintain it and resurface it, those costs go up considerably. If you're putting grit down, if you have a severe winter, those costs go up considerably. And unfortunately, we're in a position now where we as a county council, or the people of Durham, can no longer absorb these costs. And is it right that the people of Durham are picking up the costs to provide a facility for people outside of Durham? Is it not right that the costs for this facility is borne by the people who use the facility, so the end user, rather than general taxation? And that's what we're trying to do. The other thing, there's two elements to introducing pay and display. One is to pass the cost on to the end user, which I believe is the right thing to do. The other element is to manage that demand. And what we've got in Seaham is, in those particular car parks, those 6 car parks, we've got demand that outweighs availability. So what we need to do is manage that demand, because it's been proven in studies over the time that actually the making a choice of where you're going to go, the destination when you set off, its attractiveness of a location, its retail offer, its availability of space, and its safety and security of the parking space are the top 4 decision-making points. And the cost of the car parking is 5th, or it might even be 6th. So this is what we've got to remember. It's not, it won't put people off coming if there's something for people to go to. So you might sit and say, I'm going to say, I'm not going to go to Seaham, I can never get parked. Once we introduce car parking charges and we manage that demand, people will say, I know I'll be able to get parked, I'll be able to go see them. In our industry, we talk about 85% occupancy rate, and that's considered the figure whereby our operational capacity has been exceeded. So you then get a car park that's operating beyond 85%. You've got people waiting for spaces, you've got people hunting for spaces, and that generates emissions. Now, as a council, we've declared a climate emergency, and we will use all the tools we've got in our toolbox to address that. Now, introducing pay and display parking in areas where demand outweighs provision is a tool we can use to reduce emissions. And there may not be an air quality management area in Seaham, but there are. It's a global problem. Emissions are a global problem, and this will contribute to reducing that hunting for spaces, will contribute to idling, waiting for spaces and touring around, and it'll improve the visitor facility, the visitor experience for visitors to Seaham. Now, I accept that motorists would prefer there is no charge, but unfortunately there is a cost associated with it, and we're at a position now where we need to start looking at who should be picking up that cost. And it only affects people who drive a car and choose to park in those car parks. It's not going to impact somebody who doesn't own a car, who isn't lucky enough to own a car, somebody who relies on public transport, and not going to be impacted by these proposals. It's only going to be those people who drive a car and choose to park in those particular car parks. I've mentioned the climate emergency. I've mentioned the costs associated with the car park. This is the proposal that we're going with. As you can see, it's £1 up to 1 hour, over 1 hour is £3. 3 days of the year when it'll be free is Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's Day. Our surveys, all the surveys and anecdotal evidence is that these particular car parks are busy. One of my guys was at Seaham at the weekend, and I think it was on Sunday, and said it's extremely busy and they were looking for a space, and that's what we don't want. We don't want people touring around an area. We want people to say confident they can get a space, because that's one of the decision-making points. Disabled badge holders will be charged as above, because we will be managing and maintaining the spaces, and we wouldn't want those spaces to be filled with people without any enforcement, so there's a cost associated with that. Just to clarify that for everybody. We consulted between the 20th of October and the 10th of November, and this was a statutory consultees, so we've got a list of people we write out to, which includes emergency services and local MPs and local councillors, etc. We received 7 objections received from those, which included the local MP, local members for the area and the town council. Again, we hosted, because of the impact this would have on the various user groups and across a wide area, we hosted a questionnaire online between the 23rd of October and the 13th of November. And we got 2,614 objections were received, and they are displayed there in the various groupings. We've got 27 objections were later received in response to the formal advert in the press, and 53 responses in favour of the proposals were received. Now, there's a lot of objections. There's a lot of objections where, because it was an online questionnaire, no reason was given. It was just, I object. But there are a number of reasons, as you've read in the report. The details are there, and our responses are in the report. Again, officers believe that there is a cost associated with providing this facility. There is environmental impact to introducing car parking charges to reduce emissions, to reduce search and reduce idling. Introducing car parking charges will provide surety that there will be spaces available for those who want to use them, so it should improve facilities for visitors. And officers believe that the positives outweigh the negatives, and therefore recommend that committee resolves to set aside the objections and endorse the proposals in principle, which will then guide the corporate director. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. We'll move on to representations now, starting with local members.
Sorry, Chair. Forgot to do the on-street one. Sorry about
Apologies.
that. Yeah, I'll just quickly go through the on-street. It's the same same discussion, same presentation. Essentially, it's just so you know which bit of on-street we're talking about. So it's the B1287 on Seam, and it's right on the frontage. These photos on the left were taken on the 6th of February. As you can see, it's a popular location where cars park all day, impacts residents' ability to get parked. So what we're proposing to introduce on-street charges, the same as the off-street, which is £1 for the first, up to the first hour, £3 all day. We will be implementing yellow lines in the residential areas closest to make sure that the residents aren't impacted negatively. We will also be monitoring the situation and do more lining as required, if required. So again, it's to help visitors access and reduce congestion and emissions, increase footfall in the commercial area, ensure that the end user contributes to the operational costs, and hopefully lead to a positive impact for those who rely on other modes. Once again, just so you're aware, we got 2,898 objections, and this was ran at the same time on the same consultation, so many people objected to both elements, so the on-street and off-street, and the objections are largely the same, if not exactly the same. Thank you, Chair. Once again, we're recommending that members set aside these objections. So that's CM on-street and off-street. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks again, Dave. Right, so we go over to representation, starting with local members. I believe Councillor Shaw is wanting to speak on this one.
Thanks, Chair. I was a little bit surprised to hear part of Dave's presentation there. You know, as someone who was in the previous cabinet and a town council for the last 15 years or so, worked so very hard to make Seam a place where people want to visit, to say one of the advantages of introducing the car parking charges was to reduce demand and reduce the visitors' numbers into Seam when we work so hard to generate an environment where people want to come and visit. I find that really disappointing. If I can just move on generally, bringing charges on car parking in Seam, as Dave has pointed out, will deter visitors, and this will massively impact upon local businesses and local residents. Anecdotally, I've spoken to a lot of people who actually do come into Seam, and part of the attraction for them is rather than going into nearby Roker and Seaburn, they choose Seam because there isn't any car parking charges. And I've been told, you know, by various people who come here, that's part of the attraction of Seam itself. But if we look at what the impact of the car parking charges are going to be, Dave showed on the map there, where there's local car parks which don't have any charges levied against them. Obviously, what's going to happen is the car parking in the paid car parks is going to move into the areas where the no car parking is charged, and that's going to impact massively on local residents. Seam significantly relies on visitors and visitor economy, as the town centre really has struggled over a number of years. We can go right away back to the pit closures and saying what the impact was on the local economy, and that we've struggled and dragged it up by its bootlaces over 2 generations to get where we currently are. But retailers fail to be viable in the town centre despite massive intervention, and we're actually going through a period of transition. And also, I'd like to point out that it's not just the visitors who are using the car parks in blue. Local people use these car parks as well. You know, that's one aspect that wasn't covered in the presentation. I mean, the previous intention was to provide a leisure facility in Seaham, in the town centre, which hasn't been delivered, which would have afforded an opportunity for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to look at what the car parking needs of the town centre was and to work towards a constructive solution in meeting those needs. Obviously, we're in a different place now, and that will be taken up in a different place at a different time. But if we look at the local business just along North Terrace, for example, they had their on-street car parking taken away as part of the renovation of the terrace itself, and the car parking in the terrace itself was increased to allow the businesses to use that facility where they're now going to be charged. The marina business, which it is very, very attractive, but they really struggle for half of the year. It's very busy during the summer months, but in the winter they really do struggle to sustain a viable business, and they've been constantly raising this as an issue. And I've got no doubt, I've had conversations with a couple of them that they'll probably find it no longer viable if the car parking charges have got the impact that has been suggested, which will deter people from visiting Seaham. But I would just like to raise a couple of issues in regards to how this process has been actually run. Can I just clarify that the coastal car parking charges are already factored into the medium-term financial plan and included in the revenue for the next financial year, and the signage is in place? So we're going through a process here where we are, having this conversation with the Highways Committee when effectively decision has already been made. And if we look at the responses which have been submitted, I know you didn't get into the percentages there, but my understanding of it is, and clarify it if I'm wrong, 98% of the responses were against introduction of car parking charges. And I don't think there's any word being given in regards to the responses themselves. So it really does question why we carry out these consultation processes if we're just going to, draw a line through it and say, yes, we've listened to what you have said, but what we've actually done is we've looked at all the reasons where you have put forward an objection and the points you've raised, which gives us an opportunity to just put forward a rebuttal for these. I think that's more or less the process that we're following here. I don't want to go too deeply into the local issues because we've got other members here that want to raise these, and I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Dave, did you want to come in at this point and respond to any points raised there?
Thanks, Chair. Just with regard to the consultations, a requirement of the Statute Instrument 24 and 989 that we do this, and inevitably with a consultation where you're proposing to introduce something that's going to negatively impact somebody or some people, they're the ones that will respond. And so whilst you can say that 98% of respondents are against it, if you look at a demographic of County Durham that's over 500,000, then we're talking about a really small percentage of County Durham who are objecting. So it's all about statistics and numbers, but you very rarely, and you find that in a 30-year career in this industry, that people who are in favour of something very rarely or are ambivalent to it very rarely respond, and it's those that have a real concern that will respond. So yeah, that's all I wanted to clarify on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Just to make it clear that the decision on the proposed on both off-street and on-street traffic regulation orders clearly hasn't been made yet, which is why it's before members today for consideration. But of course it is a delegated matter. It's, as we've said before, it's not, you're not the final decision taker, but the decision has not been made.
Thank you. Staying with local members then, I believe Councillor McKenna's wanting to speak as well.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, please.
For the opportunity to speak on this matter. I just want to just highlight, not just on the objections, which goes into thousands. These are local people who we bump into here every day, so I would say 90-odd% of them objections are locals who've got an interest. But also I'd like to remind you that the local MP has also put in an objection, as well as business owners and visitors. I understand the car park, it's nothing new, not a new feature to put car park charges on the North East Coast. However, our biggest attraction is the availability of the free parking. And I'll emphasise the free parking because these visitors that use now free parking sustain our businesses. That's it, that's our livelihood. Visitors coming, sustaining the businesses. But also it's keeping locals in jobs. I struggle, and I really am struggling, Dave, when you're talking about there, the environment. And I mean, I live on North Terrace on the front, so I'm there every day for 50 odd years. And very rarely am I seeing people struggling on the scale you're talking about to try and find spaces, especially between Mondays and Fridays, maybe a little bit more so on a Saturday or Sunday, weather dependent. So we are weather dependent, and our biggest footfall comes on a weekend. So I'm struggling with that, because if we had better buses and a better train transport services coming into Seam, that would stop people using cars, because it's the only way to get in and on the front. And as Councillor Shaw said, we've got people, Seam is not just a little hamlet, we've got people up in the Westleigh, Deanside area who rely on using their vehicles to come into town to do the shopping. So I struggle with the environmental. Give us more buses, give us a better train service, and I'm sure that would probably relieve the stresses on that. Our local economy and businesses are extremely fragile. Any reduction in footfall, with people choosing to go elsewhere with better facilities, will undermine, obviously, employment and businesses. I've got 2 car parks affected in my ward, which is Seam Hall. If you could put that up, Dave, for us, please. Seam Hall car park, 1 cafe. You opened the new cafe one. It used to be called Tonya's Cafe. Now it's called North Beach Hall Coffee Bar. Bloke invested hundreds of thousands of pounds, uplifted it, and guess what happened? Pandemic come. So he struggled through that. He's getting through that. He's just starting to find his feet, and we're looking at parking charge. Now this will affect him. I speak to him, and it will affect him, because who's going to pay parking charges? Bear in mind, I did say we never have any issues of parking in there. Who's going to pay parking charges to go in there and pick up a takeaway coffee on my way to Sunderland to work? Nobody. And the other car park that affects me is the Vane Tempest. Again, never any issues at all, and no other facilities. People basically use that car park to just go on the beach. The other thing that springs to my mind is, during the consultation, have we spoke to the local police? Have they been involved? And the reason why I say that, and I know you mentioned yellow, possibly putting yellow lines going up to, let's say, Deanhouse Road and the surrounding areas of North Terrace. But when we've had big events on, people are parked all over the shop. It's a nightmare. And pavement parking is an issue when we've got big events on. And I think we're going to have a backlog. And the reason why I say the police is because when we've raised residents' concerns about pavement parking, off-road parking in the past to Durham, our reply comes back and it says you need to phone 101, phone the police. Parking's a police issue. So this is probably going to be another burden on the police, because residents up that road, unless you're going to put yellow lines all the way up to the train station, it'll be a problem. And I know, I can see it. And then all we're doing is giving the police an undermanned and a struggling police force more work. So I find it difficult to justify these parking charges. Also, with the cost of living crisis going on, now we're in a recession. Durham County Council are failing to provide and invest in the facilities we really need, which is public toilets and new lesser facilities, which Councillor Shaw already mentioned. So, you know, this will put a stranglehold on our visitors' economy. We've got no real nighttime economy, it's all daytime, and to be honest, it's all weekend, and it's all weather permitting. So, for me, I would ask members, rejected on the grounds of it's self-defeating. We're going to lose businesses, possibly jobs, you know, and also I believe we'll be putting an added burden on the police. We want to encourage people to come to see, and our biggest asset is that free parking. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. We now move to, I believe we have representation from Seaham Town Council here. So, Councillor Bell, nice to see you again. And,
nice to see you. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, you, go ahead, please.
Chair, I'm coming here to try and give a balanced response to this, but I'm just wondering whether this strategy, is it county-wise or just picked out at random? Because that's where it appears to be. Because I've got people up in Concert, there's no car parking charges up there. Wonder why? Why is it just the same? I've got local business people coming up to me and saying, it's going to cost me £1,000 a year just to park. It's going to cost my staff £1,000 a year each just to park. That's a lot of money. Bearing in mind that Seaham, and I'm a resident of Seaham, was born from the coal mines. We've then dragged ourselves through and made ourselves into an attraction that people want to come to. And what happens? We clumped on the head with charges. An opportunity to get some money out of Seaham. I'm just wondering whether or not this money and the revenue is hypothecated and back into Seaham coffers, because I can't see anything of that nature. When you talk about all the different car parks, there's not much mention about the cost of implementing the charges. For example, the meters and the cameras, the cost of enforcement, dealing with the appeals of parking, damage and maintenance of meters and cameras. The total cost of all this could easily be more than the projected income. And I'm not sure what the income is, but I'm sure it's already been projected to be in the medium-term financial plan. Concert's not in there, and it's a bigger town than Seaham. I can't, there's no explanation, there's no understanding of that. It's a disincentive to the people who wish to shop in Seaham. They're not going to come and start paying car park charges. People ignore the car parks and park in back streets, and thus cause problems for those residents just near the shopping areas. It's going to cause a lot of problems within the area. It negates the work that's being carried on in Seaham with regeneration and grants for the shop fronts, towns and villages, by creating on customers a local levy, if you like, just to have a shop. The parking there is going to be, well, kill the town centre, that's for certain. Can I just say that the money raised in Seaham, which is there, none of this is going to be raised in, and I'm using Concert because it's a reasonable sized town, roughly the same as Seaham, maybe it's a bit more, but they've got a new leisure centre, ours was cancelled. They had a swimming pool, ours was cancelled. They've got all weather pitches, ours have been cancelled. I wonder why. No car parking charges in Concert. Perhaps people in Seaham might want to move up there. concern I've got is that it's been a hurry, quick fix strategy. Let's pick out people and places where we can get some money quickly. No strategy for the whole of County Durham. And I would like some confirmation on that to see whether or not places like, and I'm using Concert, because that's a place I know, they don't have any car parking charges or charges. Is this a done deal? That's what I'm worried about. You've got all these objections, but it looks as though it's a done deal because it's been factored in the medium-term financial plan. It's not right. I think you should reconsider it, and that's where I'd like to end up as a resident of Seaham who's very, very disappointed with what has been proposed and the way it has been done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. We now move on to objectors, and I gather we have a few. What I'm going to do, under normal circumstances, objectors would have 5 minutes in total, but bearing in mind that the large number of people wishing to speak, I am going to allow up to 3 minutes for each objector to speak. But I would ask everybody to be brief. The 3 minutes is a limit, not a target, and very often less is more with speeches. So can I ask, do we have Sean Golightly? Could you switch your microphone on, please? Just so everyone can hear you.
I've been abroad and obviously I read everything online and I wasn't able to register. So I was just asking if I could have my say when other people are finished, if you don't mind.
Yes, all right, I will allow that on this exceptional occasion, but this is in no way a precedent for anything else.
Yeah, thanks very much. Do you want me to start now, like?
No, I'll go through the names in order. Can I just take your name, though, for...
Ian Harrison.
Ian Harrison, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, is it possible, I've just got really a brief outline. Is it possible that I could speak?
Yes, all right.
It is really sort of brief. I just basically want to give you a capsule.
Okay, brief is best. So, no, Mr. Golightly. Do we have... Sorry? Oh, I'll take your name as well, please.
Sorry, my name's Nikki Truitt.
Okay, do we have Sarah Drummond? If you'd like to go first, Sarah, up to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a combination about the Durham parking charges on a Sunday and Seaham, which I thought we were going to do all together. With the charges, you know, I understand you get some income from business rates. If there are fewer customers, then businesses may close. Needing to know how long you're going to park for in advance is a barrier. Having change is a barrier. Will we need to have an app? They're awful. What time do the park and ride run? You're talking about on a Sunday only having one park and ride car park being open. We still have to drive to the park and ride. It's not taking cars off the road. What about wanting to do things after 6:30 or 7 o'clock? People aren't going to be going to a park and ride and then getting back to their car and then driving back into Durham Centre to use any facilities like the Gala Theatre or cinema after that time. So it's just off-putting. Out-of-town shopping centres would benefit, but they're not our preference. We want to be able to support local businesses on Sundays. Psychologically, parking charges are a barrier. Personally, with my own mental health, having psychological barriers is very difficult. I might not go out at all on a Sunday if I will have to think, have I got change? Where am I going to park? Is there going to be space? With the cost of living, we want to encourage folk to come out and spend money and be in the town of Durham and of Seaham. If it's a financial issue, if Durham is going to be in debt anyway as a council, could you not just be in debt? Other councils are in debt. Could you sell your silver? Or just carry on? Who are you in debt to? There's been a report recently that many of your residents are in poverty, but they still may have a car. It may be one of the last things that they're willing to give up because of the sense of freedom that it gives. How reliable and how affordable is public transport? And how much energy does it take as an individual to calculate, where am I going to park? Have I got change? What time are things open? How can I coordinate when a cafe may be open and when when charges
30
may
seconds
be
remaining.
enforced? Also, as someone who receives universal credit, the basic universal credit is around £320 per month. That's approximately £10 per day. I'm not going to be able to spend £3 to go to Seaham if I want to, support some local businesses. That is a huge amount of my income and isn't something, I'm not registered disabled.
The time has elapsed, Chair.
It's a really big issue. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Sarah. I have to say I've always found the app, the parking app, Pay by Phone, I think it is in Durham, very good and easy to use, although I appreciate there is an extra charge for using it, which is a bit of a disincentive. But, yeah, but it does save having to carry change around and swings and roundabouts, I guess. Thank you for your contribution there, Sarah. Do we have Cliff Thompson? You have up to 3 minutes. Go ahead, please, Mr. Thompson.
Hi there. My name's Cliff Thompson. I'm a resident of Seaham. I've been there for about 35 years. So I've seen all of the changes from when it was a coal mining village to the regeneration, which has been a fantastic job. I also see the visitors to Seaham. I live just up Seaton Lane. So you're talking about environmental benefits of the parking, etc., but I've never ever seen queue and traffic for any of the car parks, ever. However, Seaton Lane, there's a constant queue of traffic there on a weekend of visitors coming in to see them, which shows the popularity of the place. You go down into the car parks, and once again, it's been pointed out, I've never had a problem parking in any of the car parks. The day that I found out about the proposed car parking fees, I'm a boat owner down at the marina, so I go down to the marina very often. And I went past the Hall Ben's car park, and it wasn't a very nice day. Not like your photographs where the sun was shining. On this day, it wasn't a very nice day. And there were 3 cars in the car park. So even if you put car parking charges there, you get the revenue off 3 cars. Is it worth it? So weather and the time of the year, etc., is a massive thing down there. Putting a year-long carte blanche charge on the car parks, is that not disproportionate compared to the likes of North Yorkshire, Whitby, places? I was down, not Saltburn, I was down one of the local seaside villages down North Yorkshire a couple of weekends ago, and they don't charge for the winter months. Is that something you would consider? Now, you go down into the car parks, as I say, I've never had a problem. You've got on the map there, you've got the Asda car park or the Byron Shopping Centre car park highlighted as one of the 3 car parks. I don't know if anybody's been there on a weekend to do the shopping. As a local resident of Seaham, I am. I do go down there on a weekend to do the shopping. And the car park's chock-a-block.
30 seconds remaining.
The car park's chock-a-block of people who are doing the shopping. If you're going to displace people into that car park, how will I do my shopping? Sorry, that 30 seconds warning has just put us off me stride. So one of the other things is that you're talking about leisure facilities. Seaham hasn't got any leisure facilities, but you're wrong. It has. One of
The time has elapsed, Chair.
facilities is the beach and the coast, and it's getting down there. And in this present climate of mental health, the number of people down there who are getting exercise, the clubs that are going down there, and putting an environment of being able to look after people's mental health, physical health, taking all of the pressure off your health service and all the other services. It's there in Seaham, but people won't use it as much if you have to pay for the parking. And
Okay.
the displaced parking as well will go into the estates, and
Okay.
you'll have a lot of complaints of people within the estates. We don't have that problem at the moment.
Right. Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you.
Do we have Daryl Hilton? No Daryl Hilton. Okay. And do we have Fiona Regan? Up to 3 minutes. Fiona, please go ahead.
I'll try. I was born in Church Street, Seaham, above Cooper's Pork Butcher Shop. And in those times, those roads were open. It's now where you can't walk. And so, we suffered from that because our shop was right in the middle. So having openness and freedom for people really is valuable for everybody concerned. I'm now governor for Cumbria, Northumbria, Tyne-Wear Mental Health Trust for Autism Services. And I'm thinking about people who I've met in there who are autistic and not known and have mental problems with anxiety. So closing doors does not open freedom and care. And I'm a big want to promote about care and not money. Money is dissolving everything in life for us, and computers, doing things on computers, you have to do this with machines. We're people, we're family, and this is the way I want it to remain. Seaham has been a fantastic family environment. It still has. People know each other. They like to talk to people, foreigners coming and building those bonds together. We don't want to put blockage in through money. And I'm thinking about management, our government, and they are the ones who should be opening doors for people and not closing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Ian Harrison, please.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm a retired businessman. I live at Houghton Spring. But the majority of people that go down to Seaham, all the way along the coast and Seaham, during the week anyway, are basically retired. Weekends, it's families and that, and my wife and I, we usually jump in the car, park it, have a walk along the seafront, have a coffee, go shopping, come back, no more. I'm sorry. You're taking freedom away from people. It's a tax. It's got nothing to do with the environment. You go on about the environment. You're on the East Coast. You're an island in the middle of the North Sea. We produce 1% of the climate, and you say it's about the environment. To me, that's a load of rubbish. It's a tax to tax the taxpayers, to tax the pensioners, because you didn't want to help them, really. And Weekends, I take the grandbands down. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it anymore now. Because you're taxing the people. And I could go on for hours. I could rant and rave here for hours. It's a tax. You're taking people's freedom and liberty away. And it's to get the money. Balance your budgets. You're all accountants. You balance everything. But do not tax the public. You'll put meters in. 9 out of 10 there'll be apps. How many people go down there? The majority of people during the week are retired people. You should be looking after people. I mean, I've just come from abroad. Never seen a parking charge. Never seen a car parking charge. And I'll say it again. You've got some good ideas. I mean, you're just as bad as the Sunderland side anyway, you know, because I live in Hortley Spring. And because I don't live in Seaham, I've come here because that's where I like to go during the day, during the week, with the family. But you're putting objections in people's way, and you say, well, it's only this and it's only that. Where's the money going? You know, I'm sick of saying it. It's just a tax on people. You're the most taxed country in the world, and we're doing it again. And as I said, I'm not from Seaham, and what's really annoying is there's not many people here. They're all on media wanting to say this, and these people who've come, this is only a minority that people could be working. I mean, where's all the councillors at? I mean, I don't know how many councillors Sunderland's
30 seconds remaining.
Seaham Harbour's got, is that all? And it's just shocking. I'm really shocked, and I'm boiling here. And I'm just Joe Public, by the way. I'm not a councillor, right? I was a businessman, but I'm retired now to enjoy retirement. But you put the shackles on that. It's disgraceful. And it's about time something was done. It's about time, because if this was abroad, it wouldn't happen. Because they'd be demonstrating, and it's not my attitude. It's just
time has elapsed,
Chair.
Chair.
Right. Thanks very much. Anyway, thanks for giving us a chance and opportunity, because I'm still boiling now anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. And Nikki Truitt, please.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate you giving us time to speak about this. My capsule is basically mental health, the cost of living, and the social aspect of what I've seen when I go to see him. I've started going there quite a lot recently. Basically, you've got the cost of living, which is going to impact people's ability to pay for the parking charges. You also have the mental health benefits, which are huge. They're absolutely enormous. You know, being next to the beach, being near the sea in nature. So I also feel that people's mental health will suffer to some degree, not being able to get to the beach maybe as often or at all, obviously depending on what their income is. Also, the other aspect that I see when I go to see him is the social strength that the police has. There are a lot of different communities. There's walking groups, Seaham Seaside Swimmers. You've got some of the swimmers go litter picking along the beach. I see posts on the Facebook page of individual single mums who've got children who go litter picking along the beach. I see, you know, single dads, families looking in the rock pools, you know, looking up information on their phone regarding what they've seen in the rock pools. It's so passionate, it really is. You know, the wealth of social strength that the place has. And I talk to a lot of people when I'm there. I talk to the shop owners, and you know, even old people. The marina has a huge community of old people who go and just sit outside for a drink. I speak to the bikers who park up on the terrace. You know, and there's members of the public going up and chatting to them.
30 seconds remaining.
Sorry, chatting to them about the motorbikes. Really, that was my nutshell. Sorry. Yeah, it's just social, mental health and cost of living. I think it all needs to be taken into account. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Right, that concludes the speeches from objectors.
Sorry, I can't hear. Could you just put the microphone on, please?
Because some people haven't turned up, is it okay if I speak, please? It's Catherine Wilkinson.
Yes, all right, as I've allowed it for others, I'll have to, but yeah.
Yeah, I just want to
please keep it brief.
I just want to speak on behalf of the community. My class, my school, my community saved money, sponsored and everything for Tommy. And I feel as though the whole part of SEAM has developed around that. But then you've started to take it away, and I don't think you realise the community in SEAM. I'll do shopping for somebody, you expect me to pay there. I'll deliver the shopping to somebody else on North Terrace. You expect me to pay there because looking at that, it says that the parking ticket's not transferable. Well, there's no way that I'm going to do that anymore. And I just feel as though, as the lady said over there, the mental health in the SEAM at the moment is so important. You can go down and walk along the seafront and you meet a whole range of people. Yes, there's tourists, but there's locals. And it's important for them to be able to speak to somebody, and to charge for disabled parking as well, I feel is really offensive. And the gentleman in front was on about the marina, and it's true, some days you can have 2 people park there, some people can have more, but I feel as though as a whole you need to take it as what that community is like, rather than someone at concert or somebody in Durham. Everybody will help everybody and see him. And you need to sort of understand, you know, will a traffic warden really walk 6 miles from Noses Point to Seaham Hall twice a day to check parking tickets? I really doubt it. And that's just what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll then ask Dave and Neil if they have any comments or observations in relation to the comments from members, Town Council and objectors. I'll start with Dave.
Just the one point of clarification that was raised by the Town Council. It is the County Council's policy to investigate and intervene in any area where supply and demand, where demand exceeds supply, and we don't have that in anywhere other than Seaham at present over the course of the year. So you mentioned concert, but it's concert, Crook, Stanley, we don't have supply issues there. So that's why we haven't focused on Seaham for any other reason other than the anecdotal and survey evidence that was being brought to us.
Thank you. Anything on the legal side, Neil? Okay, so we then move into the debate. Members wishing to speak. Councillor Howie, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Joanne Howie for Woodhouse Close Ward, which is in Bishop Auckland, which is also, I feel, on a par with Seaham. To be honest, I represent a very, a ward that's very deprived. I'm also a single mum and a widow of 4 children. I have blue badges, I have all of that. However, I feel going forward, this needs to be taken seriously as a place. Seaham. It is now going to start, it is starting to thrive more than it ever has in my eyes. I know a lot of people from my area who go to Seaham and from further beyond, say Barnard Castle, Staydrop, people with, who can afford to pay for parking, who go down there to go and look at the sea glass, who go down there just for a look out for a day out. And I think this could be a good way of us making sure we keep your car parks in a good way. Instead of everyone expecting the car parks just to be looked after for no money, we need to keep the car parks going. And as somebody's also mentioned, transport, whatever's extra, again, I suppose, like with the Durham, it'll go into the transport infrastructure, won't it? So it's going to be then looking after. I know there's people on Teesside that go to Seaham. There's people from all over that go to Seaham. And we need to make sure that we have those car parks looked after and transport infrastructure in place to help keep Seaham going as it is. £1 for an hour or £3 for an hour, it's less than a cup of coffee, usually.
It is a good coffee.
Yeah, well, no. It's more people.
Okay,
These apps are very
only one
easy.
person speaking at a time, please.
Sorry. The apps, I use the app as well. Yeah, it's a 10, 15 pence more if I haven't got change, but they're very easy to use compared to a lot of apps. We do use them. Again, we have to be, you've got the food festival that's going there now. People are knowing the place. Like Bishop Auckland, it's getting known as a destination town. And so we need to start pushing that forward seriously as a destination town, rather than sitting back and letting all the other places look after their seafronts and us not being able to. So I think it is something I would go with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wood, did I see your hand raised?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by what I have to say, bearing in mind the debate we've just had, but we'll go on anyway. Just a couple of points. First of all, the report on this one was a little bit different. So I don't know if this is a question or a comment really, but I thought it was a bit odd the way that the names of representations, for instance, from the local MP and local members weren't published. I mean, obviously, an important part of the Nolan Principles is accountability anyway, and I don't think it's any secret as to who the local MP for Seaham will be. But particularly in regards to the sort of responses from local members, I thought it was a little bit odd that their names were taken off. That doesn't seem very transparent to me. And in general, I'd want to know usually what local members think, as I did draw out on the last one. That sort of leads us on really to the comments about the consultation. And I know, obviously, Dave mentioned in response to an earlier point that it's like a statutory requirement. It's something that we have to do. And I know that is true, and part of it's called a statutory consultation. But with each of these, there's also been an informal and a formal one. And I know I made the point in the previous debate, but what is the point in the council asking the question if even when the answer is resoundingly one way, we're just going to dismiss it anyway? And on this one, the percentage is even worse. As Councillor Shaw had, 98% of people who responded think this is a bad idea. And I take it as not all of them might have explained why, but the idea that you have that kind of percentage, to me, it's very difficult to ignore it. And what's the point in... I know we had this, and I'm sure we might have it again. It's a bit frustrating to sort of hear, well, this is an issue for Highways Committee. It's not an issue for Cabinet, but actually this was a recommendation that came from Cabinet because it is incorporated in the MTFP. But more importantly than that, the council's own consultation, the background to it, when it's published, it's still sat there on the website now, says the total savings for 2024-25 to balance the budget is now estimated to be 16.308 million. That's around 11 million more than was expected. What's proposed? We propose to bring in or increase parking charges in the following places as identified locations in our October 23 budget savings proposals. So however you look at it, this isn't about over-occupancy. This isn't about people not going to see them because they're struggling to find a space. This is about bringing more money in to support the MTFP. And I don't agree with really how the report's set out as if we're trying to address anything else. This is about bringing money in to support the revenue cost. And I think the absolute cheek of it, bearing in mind that the council have literally just cancelled a brand new leisure centre that Seaham was supposed to get, it's adding insult to injury, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we know why the names of the name of the local MP was, it's a technical point, I guess, was taken out? Is that normal?
Standard procedure to redact personal information. Whether it should have been done for the MP and the local members, I'll have to check on what the standard procedure is for that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Councillor Oliver, please.
Yeah, thanks for the debate so far. I mean, I think the first point I'd like to say from my impression, having driven a long distance to see him, is just what a fantastic place it is. And I think that's the overwhelming attraction for people coming to park in Seaham, and I think that's been covered in the report. And I think one specific question I'd like to touch on though is this question about this sort of notion that we're removing all free parking because we've got this these other parking spaces. Can I just be clear of the tally of those remaining free spaces? As I understand from the report, there's over 1,000 existing spaces in total. We're talking about 2/3 that will be taken in by this new proposal, but that will still leave somewhere around 300 or 400 spaces, is that right?
The ones bordered red there, when you tally them together, come up to 793. So there's 793 spaces that will remain free.
Okay, so we're not removing free parking entirely, are we?
Not many people.
But please take into account that if you disable that some
Okay.
distance to walk to the
Okay, we'll speak when we're called to speak in here. Thank you. Councillor Mervyn, please.
Can I just clarify, Chair? Dave Llewellyn said to maintain the car parks is £20,000 to £30,000 a year. Is that each car park?
It is, and it's Dave Lewin, not Llewellyn. But yeah, depending on the size of the car park, it's between £20,000 and £30,000 per car park for non-domestic rates, water rates, electricity charges, and then you've got your maintenance costs as well, because we have to make sure there's no tripping hazards, etc. So there's ongoing maintenance, there's winter maintenance as well.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to speak? Marion.
How many free parking spaces is there in the Asda car park? Because, you know, there's quite a lot there. So if there's 700 and whatever free spaces, if you take Asda away, it doesn't leave many after that.
I mean, I don't suppose we've got the answer to that, have we? The number of parking spaces in a supermarket car park, but...
But he's got better eyes than me. It's listed on there on the right-hand side.
Oh.
And I think it might be 300 and something. It's number 14.
It's 348, Dave.
There you go, 348.
Oh, great. Thank you. I can't allow any further comments from that side. But is it a point of information?
What you're talking about in relation to the car parking, the 3 car parking spaces, can I just point out that those car parking spaces that are highlighted in blue are dedicated car parking spaces for visitors coming to see them. Those car parking spaces that are outlined in red are to support the commercial businesses, shopping and visitors to see who are going to the restaurants, etc., but predominantly shops or health service or the job centre or the local library. That's the 3 car parking spaces. It's not free car parking that is just spare car parking.
Okay.
They support other things within SEAM.
Thank you. Are any other members wishing to speak? Councillor Oliver?
Yeah, I just want to sort of re-emphasise my earlier point that and to reassure the residents of Seaham, from an outsider's perspective, it remains a fantastic destination town, and the bars, the cafes, the Durham Coast, Blast Beach, there will still be strong demand for access to Seaham, and that's something we should celebrate. And but I don't see demand for parking being parking fees being elastic in a way that would cause problems for the town centre. And I think, given the modesty of the proposal, I think it's reasonable in the circumstances. So I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation on this.
So are you moving the recommendation?
And to move it, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Mervyn? Yes, very quickly.
Yeah, just basically, I would like to say it's not that long ago since Seaham was devastated by the closure of the mines.
Yeah.
Just to take it into account.
Yes, thank you.
Also, there's not
Is it a new point, Councillor Bell? It hasn't been made by anyone else.
Well, I'd just like to point out, Chair, that the car park on the cliff tops is not a car park. It's just a bit of empty road, which I think the county have just taken over and are going to make it into a car park. But when and if, is this to pay for it or not pay for it? And that's where the majority of people try and park, because it's near the shops. If they don't park there, they'll displace all the other cars in all the other car parks off the front.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor McKenna, again, is it a new point that hasn't been made by anyone else?
It's a new point and it's a quick point. Basically, I can hear you all on that side, members, praising Seam. I like it. I do. I want people to come to Seam. I want them to visit Seam. But you know what? We're introducing these car parking charges. And Durham won't even invest in giving us a public toilet. So it seems great, but we haven't even got a public toilet. So let's not bump it up too much. There's a lot of work to be done. And all I'm going to say is these charges are going to hinder the progression of this town. Chair, thank you for your time.
10
Thank you, Councillor.
I'll give you one question for 10 seconds. Them free car parks won't be free any longer. And how many disabled with families with children, pensioners will park there and walk down to seafront? None.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Councillor Howie.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I want to say Seaham is a fantastic place, but like Bishop Auckland, it hasn't stopped people coming because the charges are there. People are starting to come more and more because it's a destination town and it's being known. And the more it's being known, the more it grows. I think we really need to move on to the vote now, please, Chair, if that's okay, because we're getting a bit drawn into the same questions.
Well, we'll move into the vote when no other members are wanting to speak. Are we at that point now? Any other members wishing to speak? No, not seeing any hands. Therefore, it's been moved and seconded that we endorse the proposals. Again, I'm going to hand over to Neil to take us through the vote.
Thank you, Chair. So again, there's two different reports that propose two different traffic regulation orders here. Items 6 and 7 on the agenda. So if we deal with item 6 first, which is the off-street parking places order. So again, I'm going to take that as moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Maven.
Okay, so vote is on item 6 first. It's been moved and seconded. Can I see all those in favour, please? And against? That is carried. I'll hand back over to Neil again.
Thank you, Chair. So if we move on to item 7, which is the on-street parking places order, again, moved by Councillor Oliver, seconded by Councillor Maven.
Are the members happy with that you're moving and seconding both? Yeah, okay, good. So can I see all those in favour, please? And those against, please. And that's, again, is carried. Thank you. Item number 8 is any other business. I've not been informed of any. Therefore, that concludes the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance and for your contributions today. And thank you to everybody who's watching on the live stream. I don't know how many people that is, but thank you for joining us as well, and hope everybody has a good day. Thank you.